The morning sun painted the Montana sky in shades of amber and gold, casting long shadows across the sprawling Double Creek Ranch. Samuel Hartwell stood on his porch, coffee mug in hand, watching the cattle move slowly across the distant pasture. At 42, Sam had the weathered look of a man who had spent his entire life working the land. His dark hair was streaked with premature gray, and deep lines around his eyes told stories of countless days squinting into the harsh prairie sun. The ranch had been in his family for 3 generations. His grandfather had built the original homestead in 1952, and his father had expanded it into one of the most successful cattle operations in the county. Now it was Sam's responsibility, and he carried that weight heavily on his shoulders. Especially since his wife Sarah had passed away 2 years ago from cancer, leaving him alone to manage not just the ranch, but also to raise their 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Sam took a long sip of his bitter coffee and glanced at his watch. 6:30 in the morning, and he still had to wake Emma, make her breakfast, and get her ready for school before starting his day with the cattle. The routine had become exhausting, and he could feel himself struggling to keep up with everything. The house felt empty without Sarah's laughter filling the rooms, and meals had become a series of hastily prepared sandwiches and canned soup. He walked back into the kitchen, a spacious room that Sarah had loved. She had spent countless hours here, cooking elaborate meals for the ranch hands, baking fresh bread, and canning vegetables from her garden. Now the counters were cluttered with unwashed dishes, and the garden outside had gone wild with weeds. Sam had tried to maintain Sarah's standards, but between running the ranch and caring for Emma, something had to give. "Emma, time to get up," he called up the stairs, his voice echoing through the silent house. He heard the creak of bedsprings and small footsteps padding across the wooden floor above. A few minutes later, his daughter appeared in the doorway, her blonde hair tangled from sleep, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. "Good morning, sweetheart," Sam said, forcing a smile. "How about some cereal for breakfast?" Emma nodded quietly and climbed onto a chair at the kitchen table. She had become increasingly withdrawn since her mother's death, and Sam worried constantly about her emotional well-being. The school counselor had suggested grief therapy, but Emma had refused to talk to any of the counselors they had tried. As Sam poured cereal into a bowl, he noticed Emma staring out the window toward the mountains. "What are you thinking about, honey?" "Mama used to make pancakes on Wednesdays," Emma said softly. "She said Wednesdays needed something special to make them better." Sam's heart clenched. Sarah had indeed made pancakes every Wednesday, usually shaped like animals or flowers, served with fresh berries and maple syrup. "Maybe we can try making pancakes this weekend," he offered, though he knew his pancakes would never compare to Sarah's. After dropping Emma off at school, Sam drove back to the ranch, his mind heavy with worry. His foreman, Miguel Rodriguez, was already waiting by the barn with the day's work assignments. Miguel had been with the ranch for 15 years and had become Sam's closest friend and confidant. "Morning, boss," Miguel said, tipping his hat. "Got some concerns about the north pasture. Fence line is down in 3 places, and we've got about 50 head that wandered onto the Peterson property." Sam rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. "How long will it take to fix?" "Most of the day, maybe 2 if the weather turns." "But, Sam, we need to talk about something else." Miguel's expression grew serious. "The men are worried about you. You're running yourself into the ground, and it shows. Yesterday you forgot about the vet appointment for the breeding bulls, and last week you mixed up the feed orders." Sam wanted to argue, but he knew Miguel was right. His mind had been scattered lately, pulled in too many directions. "I'm managing fine." "No, you're not," Miguel said gently. "And neither is Emma. She needs stability, regular meals, someone to help with homework. The ranch hands have been talking, and we think you need to hire some help for the house." The suggestion stung Sam's pride. He had always prided himself on being self-sufficient, able to handle whatever life threw at him. "I don't need a babysitter." "Not a babysitter," Miguel corrected. "A housekeeper, maybe someone who can cook, help with Emma. Sarah always said this place needed a woman's touch to make it a real home." That afternoon, while mending fence in the blazing heat, Sam found himself thinking about Miguel's words. The ranch was profitable, and he could afford household help. But the idea of having a stranger in Sarah's kitchen, touching Sarah's things, felt like a betrayal somehow. Yet every evening when he came home exhausted and dirty to find Emma doing homework at the cluttered kitchen table, eating another peanut butter sandwich for dinner, he knew something had to change. That evening, as he helped Emma with her math homework, she asked, "Daddy, why don't we have good dinners anymore? Lucy's mom makes roast chicken and mashed potatoes, and Kelly's mom makes spaghetti with Rael sauce, not from a jar." The innocent question hit Sam like a physical blow. He realized that in his grief and exhaustion, he had been failing Emma in ways he hadn't even recognized. She deserved better than cold sandwiches and lonely evenings. She deserved a real home, not just a house where they slept and ate. "You're right, Emma," he said quietly. "Things have been different since Mama went to heaven. Maybe it's time we got some help around here." Emma's eyes lit up with hope. "Like a new mama?" "No, sweetheart," Sam said carefully. "Nobody could ever replace your mama. But maybe someone who could help take care of us, make good dinners, help keep the house nice." The next morning, Sam drove into town to place an advertisement in the local newspaper. Billings was a small community where everyone knew everyone else's business, and he braced himself for the inevitable gossip. The newspaper office was run by Helen McCready, a woman in her 70s who had known Sam since he was Emma's age. "Sam Hartwell," she said, looking up from her desk with surprise. "Don't see you in town very often these days. What brings you here?" "I need to place a classified ad," Sam said, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "Looking for household help." Helen read the advertisement over her reading glasses. "Seeking responsible housekeeper for ranch home. Cooking, cleaning, childcare. Room and board plus salary. References required." She looked up at him with concerned eyes. "This is a big step, Sam. You sure you're ready for this?" "I don't have a choice," Sam admitted. "Emma needs more than I can give her right now, and the ranch is suffering too." "Well," Helen said, typing the ad into her computer, "I hope you find someone good. That little girl needs some stability in her life." As Sam drove home, he wondered if he was making the right decision. The ranch had always been a family operation, and bringing in an outsider felt strange. But Emma's pale face and the empty refrigerator at home reminded him that his current approach wasn't working. 3 days later, the phone calls started. The first applicant was Mrs. Henderson, a widow from town who had raised 6 children of her own. She seemed capable enough, but when Sam mentioned that Emma was still dealing with grief over her mother's death, Mrs. Henderson's response was dismissive. "Children are resilient," she said briskly. "What that girl needs is structure and discipline. Too much coddling isn't good for anyone." Sam thanked her politely but knew she wasn't the right fit. Emma didn't need more discipline, she needed understanding and patience. The second caller was a young woman named Jessica who had recently graduated from college with a degree in early childhood education. She was enthusiastic and well-educated, but when Sam mentioned the isolated location of the ranch and the demanding nature of ranch life, he could hear the hesitation in her voice. "How far is it to the nearest Starbucks?" she asked, and Sam knew she wouldn't last a week in the Montana wilderness. By Friday evening, Sam was beginning to lose hope. He had received a dozen calls, but none of the applicants seemed right. Either they were too rigid, too inexperienced, or too obviously unprepared for ranch life. As he sat at the kitchen table, helping Emma color pictures of horses, the phone rang one more time. "Mr. Hartwell?" The voice was soft but clear, with a slight accent he couldn't quite place. "I'm calling about your advertisement for a housekeeper. My name is Maria Begay." Something about her voice made Sam pay attention. "Yes, I'm still looking for someone. Can you tell me about your experience?" "I've been keeping house for the Morrison family outside of Flagstaff for the past 5 years," Maria explained. "Before that, I worked for a ranch family in Colorado. I'm experienced with cooking, cleaning, and caring for children. I'm also comfortable with ranch life. Do you have references?" "Yes, sir. Mrs. Morrison said she would speak with you if you'd like." I can also provide references from my previous employers. Sam found himself intrigued. Her voice was calm and confident, without the nervousness of some of the other applicants or the overwhelming chattiness of others. Why are you looking to leave your current position? There was a brief pause. The Morrisons are moving to Phoenix. Mr. Morrison is retiring, and they want to be closer to their grandchildren. It's been a good job, but I prefer ranch life to city living. Are you married? Do you have children of your own? No, sir. I'm single, no children. I come from a large family, though, so I'm comfortable around children. Sam glanced at Emma, who was listening to his side of the conversation with interest. The position includes living here on the ranch. We have a small apartment above the garage that's been converted into living quarters. It's basic but comfortable. That would be fine, Maria said. I prefer the quiet of ranch life. They talked for another 20 minutes, and Sam found himself increasingly impressed. Maria asked intelligent questions about Emma's age, her interests, any special dietary needs. She inquired about the size of the house, the kitchen facilities, whether there was a garden. Her questions showed that she was thinking seriously about the position, not just looking for any job. Would it be possible to meet in person? Sam finally asked. I'd like my daughter to meet you before making any decisions. Of course. I could drive up tomorrow if that works for you. It's about a 4-hour drive from Flagstaff. After hanging up, Sam felt more hopeful than he had in weeks. Emma looked up from her coloring book. Is she nice, Daddy? She sounded nice, Sam said carefully. But we won't know for sure until we meet her. What do you think? Are you okay with meeting someone who might come help us around here? Emma nodded solemnly. Will she make real dinners? I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. That night, Sam found himself cleaning the house more thoroughly than he had in months. He washed the dishes that had been piling up, swept the floors, and even attempted to tame the wild garden where Sarah's flowers were struggling among the weeds. He wasn't sure why Maria Begay's visit felt so important, but something told him this meeting could change everything. As he tucked Emma into bed, she asked, Daddy, what if she doesn't like us? Then, we'll keep looking until we find someone who does, Sam promised, kissing her forehead. But I have a good feeling about this one. The next morning dawned clear and bright, with a crisp autumn chill in the air. Sam found himself more nervous than he had expected as he watched the long driveway for any sign of an approaching vehicle. At exactly 10 o'clock, as they had arranged, he saw a dust cloud in the distance, followed by an older but well-maintained pickup truck. Sam walked out to the front porch, with Emma hiding shyly behind him, as the truck pulled to a stop. The woman who climbed out was not what he had expected. Maria Begay was probably in her early 30s, with long black hair pulled back in a simple braid. She was dressed practically in jeans and boots, with a simple blue blouse that brought out the warm brown of her eyes. There was something serene about her presence, a calmness that seemed to settle over the yard as soon as she stepped out of her truck. Mr. Hartwell, she said, extending her hand with a smile that reached her eyes. I'm Maria Begay. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Please, call me Sam, he said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm and confident. This is my daughter, Emma. Emma peeked out from behind Sam's legs, studying Maria with serious blue eyes. Instead of the usual adult response of immediately trying to engage the child, Maria simply nodded respectfully at Emma and said, Hello, Emma. I like your horse shirt. Emma looked down at her favorite t-shirt, which featured a painted pony. Thank you, she whispered. Sam was impressed by Maria's restraint. Too many of the other applicants had tried too hard with Emma, overwhelming her with false enthusiasm. Maria's gentle acknowledgement felt more natural. Would you like to see the house? Sam offered, and Maria nodded. As they toured the ranch house, Sam found himself seeing it through fresh eyes. The beautiful log construction that Sarah had loved, the spacious rooms with their high ceilings and large windows overlooking the mountains. But, he also noticed the dust on the surfaces, the clutter that had accumulated, the general air of neglect that had settled over everything. Maria walked through each room quietly, occasionally asking practical questions. The kitchen has a gas stove? Is there a pantry? Emma's room is upstairs? Her questions were sensible, focused on the practical aspects of maintaining a household rather than judgment about the current state of things. In the kitchen, Maria paused at the window that looked out over Sarah's overgrown garden. "Someone loved that garden," she observed quietly. "My wife," Sam said simply. "She passed away 2 years ago." Maria nodded without offering empty condolences or prying for details. "Gardens have a way of calling to people who understand them," she said. "Even when they've been neglected for a while." They finished the tour at the small apartment above the garage. It was a simple space with a bedroom, sitting area, and small kitchenette. The previous ranch owner had built it for a foreman's family, but it had been empty for years. "This would be perfect," Maria said, looking around the clean but sparse space. "I don't need much room." Back in the main house, they sat at the kitchen table while Emma played quietly in the living room nearby. Sam had prepared a list of questions, but somehow the formal interview atmosphere he had planned dissolved into a more natural conversation. "Tell me about your family," Sam said. "I'm Navajo," Maria explained. "I grew up on the reservation in Arizona, but I've spent most of my adult life working off the reservation. My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7. She taught me traditional cooking and housekeeping, but also the importance of education and adapting to different situations." "Is she still alive?" "She passed away 5 years ago. That's when I started working for ranch families. I find I prefer the rhythm of ranch life to city jobs." Sam found himself curious about her story, but he respected her privacy. There was something about Maria's presence that put him at ease. She wasn't trying to impress him or oversell herself. She answered his questions honestly and directly, and her calm confidence was reassuring. "What would you expect from this position?" Sam asked. "I would handle all household management," Maria said. "Cooking, cleaning, laundry, basic maintenance. I would also help with Emma's care, getting her ready for school, helping with homework, making sure she has proper meals and attention. I understand that losing her mother has been difficult for her." "She's been struggling," Sam admitted. "She's become very quiet, and she doesn't like to talk about her feelings. The school counselor says it's normal for her age, but I worry that I'm not giving her what she needs." "Grief is different for everyone," Maria said gently. "Sometimes children need time and space to heal, not pressure to talk before they're ready. Consistency and stability can be more healing than words." Something about the way she said it made Sam think she spoke from personal experience. "You mentioned you lost your parents young." "Yes. I understand what it's like to lose the people who made you feel safe in the world. For a child, creating new safety takes time." Emma appeared in the doorway, drawn by their conversation. "What's grief?" she asked. Maria looked at Sam for permission, then turned to Emma with serious attention. "Grief is the feeling you have when someone you love very much goes away and can't come back. It's like having a hurt inside your heart that takes a long time to heal." "Like when Mama went to heaven?" "Yes," Maria said simply. "Exactly like that." Emma considered this for a moment. "Does grief ever stop hurting?" "It changes," Maria said honestly. "The hurt becomes smaller over time, but the love stays the same size. And sometimes you find new people to love who help your heart feel better." Sam watched this exchange with amazement. In 2 minutes, Maria had managed to give Emma a clearer explanation of grief than months of counseling had achieved. Emma seemed to accept her words as truth, nodding thoughtfully before returning to her toys. After Maria left to drive back to Flagstaff, Sam and Emma sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold. "What did you think of her?" Sam asked. Emma was quiet for a long moment. "She didn't try to hug me right away," she finally said. "Is that good or bad?" "Good. Mama always said hugs have to be invited, not taken."
Sam smiled, remembering Sarah's gentle wisdom about consent and boundaries, even with children. So you think we should ask her to come work for us? Emma nodded firmly. She has kind eyes.
And she said she could make real food, not just sandwiches.
That evening, Sam called Maria's references.
Mrs. Morrison was effusive in her praise.
Maria is the most trustworthy, capable person I've ever employed, she said.
She kept our household running smoothly for 5 years, and she was wonderful with our grandchildren when they visited. We're heartbroken to lose her, but we can't take her to Phoenix with us.
The other references were equally positive. Maria was described as reliable, skilled, respectful, and excellent with children.
Everyone mentioned her cooking abilities and her talent for creating a warm, comfortable home environment. 2 days later, Sam called Maria with his decision.
We'd like to offer you the position, he said. The salary is what we discussed, plus room and board.
You're welcome to start as soon as you can arrange to move your things.
Thank you, Maria said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. I can be there by next Friday. Will that work?
That's perfect, Sam said.
Emma and I are looking forward to having you here.
As he hung up the phone, Sam felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 years: hope. Maybe, just maybe, his broken family could begin to heal. Maybe Emma could have the stability and care she needed. Maybe the house could become a real home again. That night, as he tucked Emma into bed, she asked, "Daddy, when Maria comes, will she sleep in Mama's room?" "No, sweetheart," Sam said gently. "Maria will have her own place in the apartment above the garage.
Mama's room will always be special to us." "Good," Emma said, snuggling into her blankets. "I think Mama would like Maria.
She has the same kind of quiet voice that Mama had."
Sam kissed his daughter goodnight and walked downstairs to his empty kitchen.
In less than a week, these rooms would be filled with the sounds of someone cooking, cleaning, creating order from the chaos his life had become. He wasn't sure what changes Maria's presence would bring, but, for the first time since Sarah's death, he felt ready to find out. Standing at the kitchen window, looking out at Sarah's neglected garden in the moonlight, Sam made a silent promise to his late wife. He would do whatever it took to give Emma the childhood she deserved, to create a home that honored Sarah's memory while allowing them all to heal and grow. And, maybe, with Maria's help, he could learn to be the father Emma needed him to be. The wind rustled through the cottonwood trees, and, for just a moment, Sam could swear he felt Sarah's approval in the gentle breeze. Change was coming to the Double Creek Ranch, and, for the first time in 2 years, that felt like a blessing rather than a threat. Maria arrived at the Double Creek Ranch on a crisp Friday morning in late October, her pickup truck loaded with boxes and a few pieces of furniture. Sam and Emma watched from the front porch as she carefully backed up to the garage apartment stairs. The morning air was sharp with the promise of winter, and the mountains in the distance wore caps of fresh snow. "She's really here," Emma whispered, pressing closer to Sam's side. Despite her initial positive reaction to Maria, Emma had grown increasingly nervous as the day approached. Change was difficult for a child who had already lost so much. Sam squeezed his daughter's hand reassuringly. "Remember what we talked about. We're going to give this time to work, okay? Maria seems very nice, but it might take a while for all of us to get used to each other." They walked over to help Maria unload her belongings. Sam was surprised by how few possessions she had. Everything fit into a dozen boxes and a small trailer. Her furniture consisted of a rocking chair, a small wooden chest, and several woven rugs in beautiful earth tones. "Can I help carry something?" Emma asked shyly, approaching Maria's truck. "That would be very helpful," Maria said, handing Emma a box marked books. "This one isn't too heavy." Emma struggled slightly with the box, but her face glowed with pride at being given a real job to do. Sam noticed how Maria had instinctively chosen something Emma could handle successfully, building the child's confidence rather than overwhelming her. As they carried boxes up to the garage apartment, Maria worked quietly and efficiently. She didn't chatter nervously or ask unnecessary questions. Instead, she seemed to be observing everything carefully, learning the rhythm of the place. "Would you like to see where everything is in the main house?"
Sam offered once they had finished unloading.
That would be helpful, Maria agreed.
I'd like to understand how you and Emma usually organize your days. They spent the next hour touring the house more thoroughly than during Maria's interview.
Sam showed her where supplies were kept, how the temperamental washing machine worked, and which burner on the stove ran too hot. Emma tagged along, occasionally offering important information like which cabinet held the good snacks and where her mother had kept the fancy dishes they never used anymore. In the kitchen, Maria opened the refrigerator and pantry, mentally cataloging what was available. The refrigerator contained mostly leftover takeout containers, lunch meat, and condiments. The pantry was better stocked but clearly hadn't been organized in months. I usually do grocery shopping on Saturdays, Sam explained, slightly embarrassed by the sparse offerings.
Though I'm not much of a cook, so I probably don't buy the right things.
I could go with you this week if that would help, Maria suggested. I'd like to understand what Emma likes to eat, and I can plan some meals that would work well for ranch life.
Emma perked up at this. Could we get stuff to make cookies? Mama used to make chocolate chip cookies every Sunday. Maria looked at Sam for approval before answering. I think cookies on Sunday sound like a wonderful tradition.
That afternoon, while Maria settled into her apartment, Sam tried to maintain their normal Saturday routine. But he found himself distracted, wondering what Maria was thinking about their chaotic lifestyle, their cluttered house, and his obviously inadequate parenting skills.
Emma seemed equally unsettled.
She kept finding excuses to look out the windows toward the garage apartment. What do you think she's doing up there? She asked for the fourth time in an hour. Probably unpacking her things and making her space comfortable, Sam said.
Moving to a new place is a big change. Around 4 o'clock, Maria knocked on the kitchen door.
I was wondering if I could start dinner this evening, she said. I brought some groceries with me, and I thought it might be nice to begin with a home-cooked meal.
Sam felt a wave of relief.
They had been planning another night of frozen pizza.
That would be great. Can I help with anything?
Just point me toward the pots and pans, Maria said with a smile. As Maria began working in the kitchen, Sam and Emma retreated to the living room, unsure what to do with themselves. For 2 years, evenings had followed a predictable pattern. Sam would prepare something quick and simple for dinner while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. They would eat while watching television, then Emma would take a bath and go to bed. It was efficient but joyless.
Now, delicious smells began drifting from the kitchen.
Sam recognized the aroma of onions and garlic, but there were other scents too, something warm and spicy that made his mouth water. Emma kept looking toward the kitchen doorway, obviously curious but too shy to investigate.
Why don't we go see what she's making? Sam suggested.
They found Maria at the stove, stirring something in a large pot. She had tied her long hair back with a colorful band and had already managed to tidy the kitchen considerably. The counters that had been cluttered with mail and random objects were now clear and clean. It smells really good, Emma said, edging closer to the stove.
Thank you, Maria said.
I'm making chicken and vegetable stew with fresh bread.
It's a recipe my grandmother taught me. She always said that the best meals are the ones that warm you from the inside out.
Your grandmother sounds wise, Sam said, watching Maria work. Her movements in the kitchen were confident and graceful, like she had been cooking in this space for years rather than hours. She was, Maria agreed. She raised me after my parents died, and she believed that food was one of the ways we show love to people. Every meal was made with care, even if it was just beans and fry bread.
Emma climbed onto a chair at the kitchen table, content to watch Maria cook.
My mama used to say that kitchens were the heart of the home, she offered. Your mama was right, Maria said, glancing over with a warm smile. A kitchen where people gather and share meals together is where families really live. When dinner was ready, Maria set the table with care, using the everyday dishes but arranging them nicely with cloth napkins she had brought from her own supplies. The bread was golden brown and still warm from the oven, and the stew was rich with vegetables and tender chicken.
Sam couldn't remember the last time he had eaten such a satisfying meal.
The food was flavorful but not overwhelming, hearty enough for a man who had worked hard all day but refined enough to feel special. Emma, who had become a picky eater since her mother's death, cleaned her entire bowl and asked for seconds. "This is the best dinner I've had in forever," Emma announced, carefully spreading butter on a piece of warm bread.
"I'm glad you like it," Maria said. "Tomorrow we can plan some other meals you might enjoy." As they ate, Maria asked gentle questions about their usual routines. What time did Emma need to be at school? When did Sam typically come in from working with the cattle? Did they have any food allergies or strong dislikes?
Her questions were practical rather than intrusive, focused on understanding how to support their existing life rather than changing everything immediately. After dinner, Maria began clearing the table, but Sam stopped her.
"You've done enough for today," he said. "Emma and I can clean up." "I don't mind," Maria said. "It's what you hired me for."
"Yes, but you just moved in this morning and have been working all day.
Take some time to settle in."
Maria nodded gracefully and excused herself to her apartment. Sam and Emma tackled the dishes together, something they rarely did when they were just dealing with paper plates and takeout containers.
"She's nice," Emma said, carefully drying a serving bowl. "And she didn't ask me a bunch of questions about my feelings." Sam laughed. "Is that good?" "Yeah. Grown-ups always want to know how I'm feeling, but sometimes I don't know.
Sometimes I just want to eat good food and not talk about sad things."
That insight struck Sam as remarkably mature for an 8-year-old.
Maybe Emma's reluctance to engage with counselors wasn't about being stubborn or damaged. Maybe she simply needed space to heal in her own way, in her own time. The next morning, Sam woke to the smell of coffee and something wonderful baking in the oven. For a moment, he was disoriented. The house smelled like home in a way it hadn't since Sarah died. He dressed quickly and found Maria in the kitchen, packing a lunchbox with obvious care. "Good morning," she said quietly.
"I made coffee and there are muffins in the oven. Emma is still sleeping."
"You didn't have to get up so early," Sam said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. It was perfectly brewed, strong but not bitter.
"I'm an early riser anyway," Maria said.
"I thought it might be nice if Emma woke up to breakfast ready and her lunch packed." Sam felt a pang of guilt. Emma had been making her own lunches for months, usually just a peanut butter sandwich and whatever snacks she could find.
"She'd like that," he said simply. When Emma appeared in the kitchen 20 minutes later, she stopped in amazement.
The table was set with a plate of warm blueberry muffins, fresh orange slices, and a glass of milk. Her lunchbox sat ready by her backpack, and Maria was at the stove scrambling eggs.
"Is this all for me?" Emma asked in wonder.
"It's for both of you," Maria said, plating the eggs alongside some crispy bacon. "Your father works hard and needs a good breakfast too."
As they ate, Maria asked Emma about school.
Not probing questions about friends or feelings, but practical inquiries about her favorite subjects and what she was learning. Emma, relaxed by the good food and gentle attention, began to chatter about her teacher, her science project about horses, and her best friend Lucy.
"Lucy knows everything about horses," Emma explained between bites of muffin.
"She has 3 horses at her house, and she said maybe I could come see them sometime." "That sounds wonderful," Maria said.
"Do you like horses?"
"I love them," Emma said earnestly.
"Mama used to say that maybe when I got older we could get a horse for the ranch.
But then, she got sick and we never got to talk about it anymore." Sam tensed, waiting for the conversation to take a sad turn, but Maria simply nodded.
"Horses are amazing animals," she said.
"They're very smart and they form strong bonds with people they trust."
"Do you know about horses?" Emma asked.
"A little. I grew up around horses on the reservation. My uncle had several, and he taught me to ride when I was about your age."
Emma's eyes lit up with excitement. "Could you teach me?"
Maria glanced at Sam, who found himself nodding before he had fully thought it through. "We have a couple of gentle horses," he said. "If Maria doesn't mind, I think that could be arranged."
The joy on Emma's face was worth any complications that might arise from the arrangement.
She finished her breakfast with new enthusiasm, chattering about horses and writing lessons.
After Emma left for school, Sam lingered in the kitchen longer than usual. "Thank you," he said to Maria. "I haven't seen her that animated about anything in months."
"She's a wonderful child," Maria said, beginning to clear the breakfast dishes.
"She just needed something to look forward to. You mentioned your uncle taught you to ride. Are you close to your family?"
Maria was quiet for a moment, focusing on loading the dishwasher.
"I was," she said finally.
"My uncle and grandmother were the most important people in my life. They both passed away within a year of each other, about 5 years ago. That's when I started working for families like yours."
Sam heard the grief in her voice and recognized it.
"I'm sorry for your losses."
"Thank you.
Losing them taught me something about how important it is to create family wherever you find yourself. Not to replace what was lost, but to honor it by building something new." Something about the way she said it resonated with Sam. He had been so focused on preserving Sarah's memory that he hadn't considered the possibility of building something new while still honoring what they had lost. Over the next few days, Maria settled into the rhythm of the ranch with remarkable ease. She woke early to prepare breakfast, sent Emma off to school with nutritious lunches and clean clothes, and spent her days bringing order to the chaos the house had become. But she didn't simply clean and organize. She seemed to understand that this was a home that needed healing, not just maintenance.
She arranged flowers from Sarah's overgrown garden in simple vases around the house.
She opened windows to let in fresh air and sunshine. She played gentle music while she worked, filling the silence that had settled over the house like dust. Sam found himself looking forward to coming home in the evenings. The house smelled like cooking food and felt warm and welcoming. Emma was usually at the kitchen table doing homework, but she no longer looked lonely and abandoned. She looked like a child being cared for. On Wednesday evening, Maria presented them with pancakes for dinner, not breakfast pancakes, but savory ones made with corn and green chiles, served with a spicy sauce and fresh vegetables. Emma was delighted by the novelty of pancakes for dinner, and Sam was impressed by Maria's creativity in creating special meals that honored traditions while introducing new experiences.
"Mama used to make pancakes on Wednesdays," Emma told Maria as she cut her pancakes into careful bites. "I know," Maria said gently. "Your father mentioned that. I thought we could start a new Wednesday tradition that would be special but different." Emma considered this carefully. "I like that," she decided. "It's like remembering Mama but not trying to copy her exactly." Sam was amazed by his daughter's wisdom and by Maria's intuitive understanding of how to honor the past while creating space for the future. By Friday evening, Sam realized that Maria had transformed not just their daily routines, but the entire atmosphere of the house. The clutter was gone, but she hadn't erased Sarah's presence. Instead, she had created a setting where Sarah's memory could exist comfortably alongside new experiences. Emma's school pictures, previously lost among piles of mail, now had a place of honor on the mantel alongside family photos. Sarah's cookbook collection, which had been gathering dust, was back in active use in the kitchen. The house felt like a home again, but not like a museum to the past. That Friday night, after Emma had gone to bed, Sam found Maria sitting on the front porch with a cup of tea, looking out at the star-filled Montana sky. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "Of course not," Maria said, shifting over to make room on the porch swing. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, listening to the night sounds of the ranch, cattle lowing in the distance, the rustle of wind in the cottonwood trees, the distant howl of a coyote. "I wanted to thank you," Sam said finally. "I don't know how you've done it, but in just 1 week you've made this feel like a home again." "It was always a home," Maria said softly. "It just needed someone to tend it again. Emma seems happier than she's been since her mother died." "Children need stability and care," Maria said. "But they also need to know that life can include joy again, even after loss." Sam found himself studying Maria's profile in the moonlight. She was a beautiful woman, but more than that, she had a serenity about her that was deeply appealing. He realized that for the first time in 2 years, he felt peaceful in his own home. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. Maria nodded. Why have you never married?
You're wonderful with children, you'd make someone a wonderful wife.
Maria was quiet for a long moment.
I was engaged once, she said finally. To a man from my reservation. But he wanted me to be someone I wasn't, more traditional in some ways, less independent in others. I realized that I'd rather be alone than be with someone who didn't see and value who I really am.
That must have been difficult.
It was. But I learned that it's better to wait for the right person than to settle for the wrong one just to avoid being alone. Something in her tone made Sam glance at her more carefully. In the moonlight, he could see a slight flush on her cheeks, and he wondered if her words carried more meaning than their surface suggested. Well, he said carefully, I'm grateful that you were available when we needed you.
I don't know what we would have done without your help.
I'm grateful too, Maria said quietly. I wasn't sure I was ready for another family to care for. But this feels right. As they sat together in the peaceful evening air, Sam felt something shifting inside him.
For the first time since Sarah's death, he wasn't just surviving each day.
He was beginning to imagine what it might be like to truly live again. He wasn't ready to name the feelings that were stirring in his chest when he looked at Maria. It was too soon, too complicated. But he couldn't deny that something was changing, something that went beyond gratitude for her help with Emma and the house. The ranch that had felt empty and hollow for 2 years was beginning to feel like home again. And Maria, with her quiet strength and gentle wisdom, was becoming much more than just the housekeeper they had hired. As Sam said goodnight and headed inside, he found himself wondering what other changes the coming weeks might bring. For the first time in 2 years, the future felt like something to look forward to rather than something to simply endure. 3 weeks after Maria's arrival at the Double Creek Ranch, the first snow of the season dusted the Montana mountains with white, and Emma caught a cold that kept her home from school for 2 days. Sam was preparing to cancel his plans to drive cattle to the winter pasture when Maria intercepted him at the kitchen door. Go, she said simply, handing him a thermos of hot coffee and a wrapped sandwich.
Emma will be fine with me.
She needs to rest, and you need to take care of the cattle.
Sam hesitated. Since Sarah's death, any time Emma was sick, he had stayed home with her.
The thought of leaving his daughter when she wasn't feeling well triggered all his protective instincts.
I've taken care of sick children before, Maria said gently, reading his uncertainty.
And, if anything changes, I can call Miguel and have him radio you.
Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, wrapped in a bathrobe with her hair disheveled from sleep.
Go work, Daddy, she said, her voice hoarse from her cold. Maria makes really good soup when people are sick.
You've been taking care of her? Sam asked Maria.
She woke up around 5 with a cough, Maria explained. I made her some tea with honey and got her settled back in bed.
Her fever broke about an hour ago.
Sam realized that Maria had been caring for his daughter while he slept, unaware that Emma was even sick. The guilt was immediate and sharp. What kind of father was he that Maria had noticed his child's illness before he had? I should have known she was getting sick, he said. You're not superhuman, Maria said matter-of-factly. And you can't protect her from every cold virus in Montana. But you can trust that she's in good hands today so you can take care of your work.
Something about Maria's calm confidence reassured him.
Emma clearly wasn't worried about being left in Maria's care, and Miguel was waiting for him to help move the cattle before the weather turned worse.
Okay, Sam said finally. But if she gets worse,
I'll call immediately, Maria promised. Sam kissed Emma's forehead and headed out into the crisp morning air, but his mind remained divided between the work at hand and worry about his daughter. As he and Miguel rode out to gather the cattle, he found himself checking his radio every few minutes for any word from the house.
She's fine, boss, Miguel said, noticing Sam's distraction. Maria knows what she's doing.
My wife Rosa has been talking to her at the grocery store, and she says Maria has a gift with children.
Your wife likes her?
Rosa loves her, Miguel said with a grin.
Says it's about time you got some proper help around that house. And she's not the only one talking.
Half the women in town are curious about the new housekeeper who's got Sam Hartwell's place running smooth as clockwork.
Sam felt heat rise in his cheeks. It's not like that.
She works for me, that's all. Sure, boss, Miguel said, but his tone suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. They spent the day moving cattle through the mountain pastures, and Sam found himself gradually relaxing into the familiar rhythm of ranch work. The cattle were in good condition, fat from summer grass, and they moved cooperatively toward the lower pastures where they would spend the winter months.
Around noon, the radio crackled to life. Sam, this is Maria. Emma is doing much better.
Her fever is completely gone, and she's asking for lunch.
Just wanted to let you know. The relief in Sam's chest surprised him with its intensity. Thanks, Maria. I'll be home around 5. Take your time. We're making cookies. Miguel grinned at him. See? Everything's under control.
When Sam arrived home that evening, he could hear laughter coming from the kitchen before he even opened the front door. He found Emma sitting at the table with flour in her hair, carefully decorating sugar cookies with colored icing.
Maria was at the counter, rolling out another batch of dough. Daddy!
Emma called out, her voice still slightly hoarse but much stronger than that morning.
Look what we made.
The kitchen table was covered with dozens of cookies in various shapes: horses, stars, flowers, and hearts.
Emma had clearly been having a wonderful time decorating them with bright colors and sprinkles.
These look incredible, Sam said, picking up a horse-shaped cookie.
Can I try one? That one's for you, Emma said proudly. I made it special.
The cookie was perfectly sweet and flavored with vanilla and a hint of cinnamon.
It's delicious, Sam said honestly. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Much better.
Maria made me chicken soup and tea with honey, and then we read stories, and then, when I felt good enough, we started making cookies. Emma's enthusiasm was infectious, and Sam marveled at the transformation from the listless, feverish child he had left that morning. She's been a perfect patient, Maria said, sliding a fresh batch of cookies into the oven. No fever for hours, good appetite, and plenty of energy for cookie decorating. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed early to rest, Sam found Maria in the kitchen, packaging the cookies they had made into containers.
Thank you, he said,
for taking such good care of her today.
It was my pleasure, Maria said. She's a wonderful child. Very resilient. You didn't have to make cookies with her. That was above and beyond what I hired you for.
Maria paused in her packing and looked at him directly.
Sam, can I ask you something?
Of course.
What exactly do you think you hired me for? Sam was taken aback by the question. To keep house, cook, help with Emma. Those are tasks, Maria said gently. But what did you really need when you placed that advertisement? Sam considered the question seriously. I needed help. Emma needed stability. The house needed life, I guess. Exactly. And life isn't just clean floors and regular meals.
Life is making cookies with a sick child because it makes her smile.
Life is celebrating the small moments that make a house feel like a home. Sam felt something shift in his understanding of what Maria brought to their family.
She wasn't just an employee, she was someone who understood what they needed on a deeper level. My grandmother always said that when you take care of a family, you take care of their hearts as much as their bodies, Maria continued. Emma needed to feel better today, but she also needed to feel loved and engaged. Making cookies accomplished both.
You're right, Sam said.
I've been so focused on just getting through each day that I forgot about those moments that make life worth living. That's grief, Maria said compassionately. When you're in survival mode, it's hard to see beyond the next necessary task.
But Emma is ready for more than just survival now.
She's ready to enjoy being a child again. Over the following days, Sam began to notice other ways that Maria was encouraging Emma to reclaim her childhood joy. She taught Emma to braid friendship bracelets while they waited for cookies to bake. She showed her how to press autumn leaves between wax paper to preserve their colors. She convinced Emma to help her reorganize the playroom that had sat unused since Sarah's death. Most importantly, Maria followed through on her promise to teach Emma about horses. The next Saturday, she led Emma out to the small corral where they kept two gentle mares that had been Sarah's favorites. Sam watched from the fence as Maria introduced Emma to the horses with the same patient, respectful approach she used with everything else. She taught Emma how to approach the animals calmly, how to let them smell her hands, how to brush their coats with gentle strokes. Horses can sense fear, Maria explained to Emma, but they can also sense kindness and respect. If you're calm and gentle with them, they'll trust you. Emma was initially nervous, but, under Maria's guidance, she soon was confidently brushing the horses and feeding them carrots.
Her face glowed with pride and excitement. "Can I ride one?" Emma asked after she had spent an hour getting acquainted with the horses. "Not today," Maria said. "First we learn to be comfortable around them on the ground.
Riding comes later, when you and the horses know each other better."
Sam was impressed by Maria's approach.
Another adult might have given in to Emma's enthusiasm immediately, but Maria understood the importance of building confidence gradually and safely. That evening at dinner, Emma chattered excitedly about the horses. "Maria says that if I'm patient and work hard, maybe by spring I could learn to ride. And she knows all about taking care of horses, not just riding them."
"That sounds like a good plan," Sam said, glancing at Maria with gratitude. "Learning to care for horses is just as important as learning to ride them."
"My uncle always said that horses will teach you everything you need to know about responsibility and patience," Maria added.
"They don't rush, and they don't forgive carelessness, but they reward consistency and kindness." As November progressed, Sam found himself increasingly aware of Maria as more than just Emma's caregiver and their housekeeper. He noticed the graceful way she moved around the kitchen, the thoughtful expression on her face when she was planning meals or organizing household tasks. He appreciated her quiet sense of humor and her ability to find joy in simple things. One evening, while Emma was absorbed in a puzzle at the kitchen table, Sam and Maria worked together to prepare dinner. It was a comfortable domestic scene that felt both natural and charged with unspoken possibilities. "Can I ask you something?"
Sam said, peeling potatoes while Maria seasoned a roast.
"Sure. Do you ever miss having your own family? Your own children?"
Maria was quiet for a moment, focusing on her cooking.
"I always thought I would have children someday," she said finally. "But life doesn't always follow the plans we make when we're young. Do you regret the choices you've made?"
"No," Maria said without hesitation. "I've had opportunities to care for children like Emma, to be part of families that needed me. In some ways, that's been more meaningful than having my own children might have been."
"Emma adores you," Sam said.
"She's happier than she's been since her mother died."
"Emma is easy to love," Maria said simply.
"She's smart and funny and resilient. She just needed someone to see those qualities and nurture them." Sam found himself watching Maria's face as she spoke about his daughter, and he was struck by the genuine affection he saw there. This wasn't just professional care, Maria had formed a real emotional bond with Emma.
"And what about you?" Maria asked, turning the question back to him. "Do you think about having more children someday?"
The question caught Sam off guard.
He hadn't thought about expanding his family since Sarah's death.
The idea of loving someone else, of risking the kind of loss he had experienced, had seemed impossible.
"I don't know," he said honestly. "I never thought I'd be raising Emma alone, so I've been focused on just being a good father to her."
"You are a good father," Maria said firmly. "Emma knows she's loved and protected.
That's what matters most." Their conversation was interrupted by Emma's excited squeal.
"I finished it. I finished the whole puzzle." Sam and Maria went to admire Emma's accomplishment, a 1,000-piece puzzle of wild horses running across a meadow. Emma had been working on it for weeks, and completing it was a significant achievement for a child her age. "I'm so proud of you," Sam said, hugging his daughter. "That's a big, complicated puzzle." "Maria helped when I got stuck," Emma said generously.
"But I did most of it myself." "You absolutely did," Maria agreed.
"And now you know that you can accomplish difficult things if you're patient and persistent."
As they celebrated Emma's achievement with hot chocolate and cookies, Sam reflected on the changes that had occurred in their family dynamics since Maria's arrival. Emma was more confident, more willing to try challenging activities, more able to express joy and excitement. The house felt warm and welcoming, filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation. But, perhaps most significantly, Sam himself was beginning to feel like a complete person again rather than just a grieving widower trying to survive each day. Maria's presence had restored not just order to their household, but hope for their future. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Sam found Maria reading on the front porch despite the cold November air. She was wrapped in a heavy sweater and had a wool blanket across her lap. "Aren't you cold out here?" he asked, joining her on the porch swing. "I like the quiet," Maria said. "And the stars are so clear tonight." Sam looked up at the Montana sky, brilliant with stars and the crisp, clear air. "Sarah used to love nights like this," he said. "She'd sit out here for hours, just looking at the sky and thinking." "It must be comforting to have those memories," Maria said gently. "It is," Sam said, surprised to realize that thinking about Sarah no longer brought only pain. "For a long time, I couldn't bear to remember the good times because they made her absence feel more real. But, lately, I've been able to think about her with gratitude instead of just grief." "That's healing," Maria observed. "When grief transforms into gratitude, it means you're learning to carry love without carrying pain." "Is that what happened for you? When you lost your grandmother and uncle?" "Eventually, yes. It took time, but I realized that the love they gave me didn't die with them. It became part of who I am, part of what I'm able to give to others." Sam felt something profound in her words, a wisdom born from experience that resonated with his own journey through grief. "Maria," he said carefully, "I want you to know how grateful I am for everything you've done for Emma and me. You've given us back something I thought we'd lost forever." "What's that?" "The ability to be happy," Sam said simply. Maria turned to look at him, and, in the moonlight, he could see something soft and warm in her expression. "I'm happy here too," she said quietly. "Happier than I've been in years." Something in the air between them shifted, became charged with possibility. Sam found himself leaning slightly closer to Maria, drawn by her warmth and the gentle intimacy of the moment. But, before anything could happen, the sound of Emma calling from inside the house broke the spell. "Daddy! Maria! I had a bad dream." They hurried inside to comfort Emma, who had awakened from a nightmare about being lost in a snowstorm. Maria sat on the edge of Emma's bed and gently stroked her hair while Sam reassured her that she was safe at home. "Sometimes our minds worry about things when we're sleeping," Maria explained to Emma. "But dreams can't hurt us, and we're both right here with you." Emma snuggled between Sam and Maria, quickly relaxing back toward sleep. "Will you stay until I'm asleep again?" she asked. "Of course," Sam and Maria said almost simultaneously. As they sat in Emma's darkened room, waiting for her breathing to deepen into sleep, Sam found himself acutely aware of Maria's presence beside him. The moment on the porch had revealed something that had been building for weeks. His feelings for Maria had grown far beyond gratitude and professional respect. But Emma's nightmare had also reminded him of the complexities of their situation. Emma was attached to Maria, but as her employee and caregiver. How would she react if their relationship became something more? And, was it fair to Maria to risk complications that might affect her position in their household? As Sam tucked the sleeping Emma more securely under her covers, he realized that the changes Maria had brought to their lives were more profound than he had initially understood. She hadn't just restored order to their household, she had awakened possibilities he hadn't dared to imagine. The question now was what to do with the feelings that were growing stronger every day, and how to navigate the delicate balance between his role as Emma's father, Maria's employer, and the man who was beginning to hope for a future that included love again. December brought the kind of harsh Montana winter that tested both livestock and human endurance. The thermometer plunged below zero for days at a time, and snow piled up against the ranch buildings in towering drifts. Sam found himself spending longer hours outside, breaking ice on water troughs, hauling extra feed to the cattle, and making sure the ranch equipment stayed functional in the brutal cold. Coming home each evening to the warm,
welcoming house that Maria maintained became even more precious during those harsh weeks. The kitchen windows glowed with golden light against the early darkness, and the smell of hearty stews and fresh bread created a sanctuary from the unforgiving weather outside. But the intimacy forced by winter's isolation also intensified the feelings that had been growing between Sam and Maria since that November evening on the porch. They found themselves stealing glances across the dinner table, their hands brushing when they both reached for Emma's homework folder, their conversations extending later into the evening as Emma slept upstairs. One particularly brutal Thursday, Sam came in from the barn nearly frozen despite his heavy winter gear. A pipe had burst in the equipment shed, and he had spent hours in sub-zero temperatures trying to prevent thousands of dollars worth of machinery from freezing. Maria took one look at his blue lips and chattering teeth and immediately went into action. "Hot shower, now," she commanded, pushing him toward the stairs. "I'll bring up hot coffee and get some dry clothes ready." Sam was too cold to argue. By the time he emerged from the steaming shower, Maria had laid out warm clothes on his bed and left a thermos of coffee on his nightstand. The simple care of being looked after so thoroughly touched him more deeply than he had expected. When he came downstairs 20 minutes later, Maria had prepared his favorite beef stew and cornbread, and Emma was already halfway through her dinner. "Better?" Maria asked, studying his face for signs of lingering cold. "Much better. Thank you." Sam realized that his gratitude went far beyond the warm food and dry clothes. Maria's care for his well-being felt like something he had been missing for longer than he had realized. "The equipment shed?" Maria asked as Sam sat down to eat. "Fixed for now. But I'm going to need to do some major repairs when the weather breaks." Sam rubbed his temples, thinking about the expense and time that would be required. "Is it very expensive?" Emma asked, looking up from her stew with concern. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart," Sam said automatically. "Daddy will figure it out." But Maria had caught the weariness in his voice, the slight tension around his eyes that suggested the ranch's financial pressures were weighing on him more heavily than usual. After Emma went to bed, Maria found Sam in his home office, surrounded by invoices and repair estimates. The desk was covered with papers, and his calculator showed figures that made his jaw clench with stress. "How bad is it?" Maria asked quietly. Sam looked up, surprised by her directness. "It's manageable," he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. "Sam," Maria said, settling into the chair across from his desk. "I've been keeping house for ranch families for years. I know what financial stress looks like, and I know that pride doesn't pay for equipment repairs." Sam leaned back in his chair, suddenly feeling exhausted. The isolation of financial worry, of making all the decisions alone, had been wearing on him for months. "The equipment repairs are going to cost about $15,000, he admitted. "Which isn't catastrophic, but it comes right after a year when cattle prices were lower than expected and feed costs were higher. And Emma needs braces next year, and the roof on the main house needs work before next winter." "Have you considered taking out a loan? The ranch is already leveraged pretty heavily." "My father borrowed against it to expand the herd, and I've been paying that down." "Another loan would put us in a precarious position." Maria was quiet for a moment, studying the papers on his desk. "What about selling some cattle early?" "I could do that, but the prices are better if I wait until spring." "Selling now would mean taking a loss that might be bigger than the equipment repair costs." "And hiring help for the repairs?" "I can do most of the work myself. It's just a matter of time and materials." Maria nodded thoughtfully. "What if you didn't have to pay my salary for a few months? That might free up enough cash flow to handle the repairs without taking a loss on the cattle." Sam stared at her. "I can't ask you to work without pay." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Maria's voice was calm and matter-of-fact. "I have savings, and I believe in this ranch. More importantly, I believe in you and Emma." "Maria, I can't accept that. It wouldn't be right." "Why not?" "Because it makes you feel like you can't take care of your family alone?" Maria's directness was gentle but challenging.
Sam, accepting help isn't the same as failing. It's what people who care about each other do. The phrase people who care about each other hung in the air between them, loaded with implications that neither of them had directly acknowledged before. Is that what we are? Sam asked quietly. People who care about each other? Maria met his eyes directly. I think we've been that for a while now. Something in her tone, in the way she was looking at him, made Sam realize that they had moved far beyond the boundaries of employer and employee. The feelings he had been fighting, the attraction and affection that had been growing for months, were clearly mutual. Maria, he said carefully, I need you to know that what I'm feeling, it's not just gratitude. I know, she said softly. It's not just gratitude for me either. They looked at each other across the desk cluttered with ranch business, and Sam felt the last of his resistance crumbling. He stood up and moved around the desk, extending his hand to help Maria to her feet. When she stood, they were close enough that Sam could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, could smell the faint scent of lavender that clung to her hair. He reached up to touch her face, tracing the line of her cheekbone with his thumb. I've been trying not to feel this, he admitted. It seemed too complicated, too soon. I know, Maria whispered. But some things can't be controlled by timing or logic. Sam leaned closer, and Maria tilted her face up toward his. The kiss that followed was gentle and tentative at first, then deeper as they both acknowledged feelings that had been building for months. When they finally broke apart, Sam rested his forehead against Maria's. What do we do now? He asked. I don't know, Maria admitted. But I know I don't want to pretend this isn't happening anymore. Emma, Sam said, the practical implications suddenly flooding back. How do we handle this with Emma? Carefully, Maria said. She's been through so much loss. We need to be sure about what we're doing before we involve her in any changes. Are you sure? Sam asked. About this, I mean. About us. Maria was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. I'm sure about how I feel, she said finally. I'm sure that I love being part of your family, that I care about Emma like she was my own daughter, and that when I look at you, I see a future I want to be part of. And I'm sure that you've brought my family back to life, Sam said. Emma is happier and more confident than she's been since her mother died. The house feels like a home again. And when I'm with you, I feel like the man I used to be before grief took over everything. They stood holding each other in the quiet office, both understanding that they had crossed a line that would change everything. But, instead of fear, Sam felt a sense of rightness, as if pieces of his life that had been scattered were finally falling back into place. Over the following days, Sam and Maria navigated their new relationship carefully. They were discreet around Emma, maintaining their usual professional demeanor during the day while stealing private moments in the evening after Emma went to bed. The secrecy felt both necessary and unsustainable. Emma was perceptive, and Sam worried that she would sense the change in dynamics even if they tried to hide it. His concerns proved justified the following Saturday morning. Emma had been unusually quiet during breakfast, picking at her pancakes and studying both Sam and Maria with serious attention. Finally, she set down her fork and announced, "Something's different." Sam and Maria exchanged a quick glance. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Sam asked. "You and Maria are acting weird," Emma said with 8-year-old directness. "You keep looking at each other funny, and last night I heard you talking really quietly downstairs for a long time." Sam felt his heart sink. They had been so careful, but apparently not careful enough. "You're right," Maria said before Sam could respond. "Something is different. But it's not a bad different." Emma looked between them with growing understanding. "Are you guys like boyfriend and girlfriend now?" The innocent question hit Sam like a physical blow. How could he explain the complexity of adult relationships to a child who had already lost one mother figure? "Emma," he said carefully, "Maria and I have become very good friends. More than just employer and employee. But we want you to know that whatever happens, it won't change how much we both care about you." "But what if you get married?" Emma asked with startling directness. Would Maria still be what would she be? Emma, Maria said gently, kneeling down to Emma's eye level.
Your father and I are just beginning to explore our feelings for each other.
We don't know what the future holds.
But I want you to know that regardless of what happens between your father and me, you will always be precious to me.
But what if you decide you don't like us anymore and you leave?
The fear in Emma's voice broke Sam's heart.
Of course, Emma would be terrified of another loss, another important person disappearing from her life.
Oh, sweetheart, Maria said, pulling Emma into a gentle hug.
I'm not going anywhere.
Even if your father and I decided we were better as friends, I would still want to be part of your life.
You've become too important to me to lose.
Really? Emma asked, her voice muffled against Maria's shoulder.
Really, Maria confirmed. You're stuck with me now. Emma pulled back to look at Maria seriously. So if you and Daddy get married, you'd be like my stepmom?
If that ever happens, Maria said carefully, I would never try to replace your mother.
No one could do that.
But I would love to be another person who loves you and takes care of you.
Emma considered this for a long moment. I think I'd like that, she said finally.
But could we still do all our special things?
Like making cookies and learning about horses?
Of course, Maria said. Those things are special between you and me, no matter what else happens. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sam and Maria sat on the porch despite the December cold, both wrapped in heavy coats and sharing a blanket.
That went better than I expected, Sam said.
She's a remarkable child, Maria agreed.
Most kids her age would be more resistant to change.
She loves you, Sam said simply.
I think she's been hoping for something like this without really understanding what she was hoping for. And how do you feel about it? Maria asked. Having our relationship out in the open?
Terrified, Sam admitted. But also relieved.
I hate secrets, especially from Emma. So what happens now? Sam turned to look at her, this woman who had transformed his family's life in ways he was still discovering. Now we take it one day at a time. We keep building what we've started. And we see where it leads.
I love you, Maria said quietly, the first time either of them had spoken the words directly. I love you too, Sam replied, and saying it felt like coming home. As they sat together in the cold Montana night, Sam reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 6 months ago, he had been a broken man trying desperately to hold his family together. Now he was a man in love, with a daughter who was thriving and a future that looked brighter than anything he had dared to imagine. The ranch was still facing financial challenges, winter was far from over, and there would undoubtedly be difficulties ahead.
But, for the first time since Sarah's death, Sam felt equipped to handle whatever came their way.
He had found love again, not as a replacement for what he had lost, but as something new and precious that honored both his past and his future. Emma had found stability and care, and the possibility of expanding her family in a way that felt safe and loving. And Maria had found the family she had been searching for, a place where her gifts were valued and her love was returned. As they headed inside to the warmth of their home, Sam realized that sometimes the best things in life come not from searching for them, but from opening your heart to unexpected possibilities. Maria had arrived as a solution to a practical problem, but she had become so much more, the missing piece that made their family whole again. Spring came late to Montana that year, but when it finally arrived in April, it brought with it a sense of renewal that seemed to touch everything on the Double Creek Ranch. The snow melted to reveal Maria's carefully tended winter garden, where she had managed to keep herbs and cold-weather vegetables alive throughout the harsh months. Emma's riding lessons resumed with enthusiasm, and she had progressed to cantering around the corral under Maria's watchful guidance. Sam stood at the kitchen window on a bright Saturday morning, watching Emma work with one of the maras. 6 months ago, he never could have imagined this scene, his daughter confident and laughing on horseback, Maria standing at the fence rail offering gentle corrections and encouragement, the ranch bustling with the energy of new life. She's getting good, Maria said, appearing beside him at the window. She has natural balance and good instincts with the horses. She gets that from her mother, Sam said. Sarah was fearless around horses. It had taken months, but Sam could now mention Sarah without the conversation becoming heavy with grief. Maria had helped him understand that honoring Sarah's memory didn't require avoiding all mention of her. Instead, sharing those memories had become a way of keeping Sarah present in their family story while allowing space for new chapters to unfold. "I was thinking," Maria said, turning from the window to face him, "maybe it's time Emma had her own horse."
Sam raised an eyebrow. "That's a big responsibility."
"She's ready for it. She's been consistent with caring for the horses we have, and having her own would teach her even more about commitment and responsibility."
"And you think she can handle it?"
"I think she's been ready for weeks. She's just been waiting for permission to hope for something that big."
Sam considered this.
Emma had indeed shown remarkable dedication to the horses, never missing her daily chores of feeding and grooming them, even when Montana weather made the work unpleasant. "There's a horse auction next weekend in Billings," Maria continued. "We could look for something young but well-trained. A horse that could grow with her." The casual way Maria used the word "we" in planning Emma's future made Sam's heart skip. Over the winter months, the three of them had become a family in every way that mattered, even though no official commitments had been made.
"We should talk to Emma about it first," Sam said. "Make sure she understands what owning a horse really means." That evening at dinner, they brought up the idea. Emma's face lit up with such pure joy that Sam wondered why they had waited so long to consider it. "My own horse?" Emma whispered, as if speaking too loudly might make the possibility disappear. "Really?" "If you're ready for the responsibility," Sam said. "A horse isn't just a pet, Emma. It's a commitment. Every day, no matter what, that horse would need to be fed and cared for." "I know," Emma said solemnly. "Maria taught me about that. And I promise I would take good care of it." Maria corrected with a smile. "I think we should look for a young mare. They tend to be calmer and more teachable than geldings or stallions." Emma bounced in her chair with excitement. "When can we look? Can we go this weekend?" "The horse auction is next Saturday," Sam said. "But, Emma, we need to set some rules. We're not going to buy the first horse we see, and we're not going to get carried away and spend more than we should." "How much does a horse cost?" Emma asked. "Depends on the horse," Sam replied. "But we need to budget for more than just buying the animal. There's equipment, veterinary care, special feed." "I have money saved from my allowance," Emma offered earnestly. "I could help pay for her." Sam's heart swelled with pride at his daughter's willingness to contribute her own money to something she wanted. "That's very generous, sweetheart, but this would be a family investment." Over the next week, Emma threw herself into research about horse care with the same determination she had shown with her puzzle projects. She checked out books from the library, asked Maria endless questions, and even convinced Miguel to tell her stories about the horses he had known growing up in Mexico. The night before the auction, Emma was too excited to sleep. Sam found her sitting at her bedroom window, staring out at the pasture where the ranch horses grazed in the moonlight. "Nervous?" he asked, sitting on the edge of her bed. "What if we don't find the right one?" Emma asked. "What if there aren't any horses that want to be mine?" Sam smiled at her childlike way of thinking about the relationship between horse and owner. "Then, we'll keep looking until we find the right match. Good things are worth waiting for." "Is that what happened with you and Maria?" Emma asked. "You waited until you found the right person?" The question caught Sam off guard, both because of Emma's perceptiveness and because it touched on something he had been thinking about more frequently. His relationship with Maria had deepened throughout the winter months, but they had been careful not to move too quickly, especially with Emma's emotional well-being to consider. "Something like that," Sam said carefully. "Sometimes the best things come when you're not actively looking for them." "Are you going to marry her?" Emma asked with 8-year-old directness. "Would you like that?" Sam asked, turning the question back to her. Emma considered this seriously. "I think so. She makes you happy, and she makes me feel safe. And she said she would never try to replace Mama." "No one could ever replace your mama," Sam confirmed. But Maria could be another person who loves you very much. Like having two mamas? Emma asked. One in heaven and one here? Exactly like that. Emma nodded, satisfied with this explanation. I think Mama would like Maria, she said.
They both care about making people feel loved. The next morning dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for a horse auction. Maria had prepared a picnic lunch and filled a thermos with coffee, understanding that they might spend the entire day at the auction grounds. The auction yard was bustling with activity when they arrived. Dozens of horses were penned in temporary corrals, ranging from young colts to older working horses. The air was filled with the sounds of horses nickering, men calling out instructions, and the general buzz of a livestock auction.
Emma was overwhelmed at first, clinging to Maria's hand as they walked among the pens.
There were so many horses, all different colors and sizes, that it seemed impossible to choose just one. Don't try to see them all at once, Maria advised. Let's walk through slowly and see if any of them speak to you. They spent the morning examining horses and talking to sellers.
Sam was impressed by Maria's knowledge of horse conformation and temperament.
She could assess a horse's health and disposition with a few quick observations, steering them away from animals that might be beautiful but unsuitable for a young rider. Around noon, they stopped at a pen containing 3 young mares. 2 were flashy pintos that immediately caught Emma's attention, but the third was a plain chestnut mare standing quietly in the corner.
What about her? Maria asked, pointing to the chestnut.
She's kind of plain, Emma said, still fascinated by the more colorful horses.
Sometimes the plain ones have the best personalities, Maria said. Let's take a closer look.
As they approached the pen, the chestnut mare lifted her head and walked toward them with calm curiosity. She had intelligent dark eyes and a gentle expression, and when Emma tentatively reached out her hand, the mare sniffed it delicately before allowing Emma to stroke her nose. She likes me, Emma whispered in wonder. And you like her, Maria observed, watching the natural way Emma and the mare interacted. They talked to the seller, an older rancher who was retiring and dispersing his herd. The mare, named Buttercup, was 4 years old, well trained for basic riding, and had a reputation for being gentle and reliable. She's not the prettiest horse I've got, the rancher admitted, but she's got the best temperament. Would be perfect for a young rider. The bidding for Buttercup was modest, as the flashier horses drew more attention from buyers looking for show animals. Sam was able to purchase her for a reasonable price, and Emma's joy was so complete that she cried tears of happiness.
She's really mine? Emma asked over and over as they loaded Buttercup into the horse trailer. She's really yours, Sam confirmed.
And she's going to be your responsibility. The drive home was filled with Emma's excited planning about how she would care for Buttercup, what she would teach her, and all the adventures they would have together. Maria and Sam exchanged amused glances as Emma chattered about her dreams for her new horse. Back at the ranch, they settled Buttercup into a stall in the barn and let her rest from the stress of the auction and transport. Emma wanted to stay with her new horse, but Maria convinced her that Buttercup needed quiet time to adjust to her new home. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Sam reflected on how much their family had changed since Maria's arrival.
Emma was confident and happy, engaged with life in ways she hadn't been since her mother's death.
The ranch was running smoothly, with Maria's organizational skills bringing order to both the household and the business aspects of the operation. And Sam himself felt like a complete person again, no longer just surviving each day but truly living. His love for Maria had grown slowly and steadily, built on shared experiences and mutual respect rather than just physical attraction. "Penny for your thoughts," Maria said, noticing his contemplative mood. "I was thinking about how much has changed since you came here," Sam said.
"A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this life." "Good changes?" Maria asked. "The best changes," Sam confirmed. "Emma is happier than she's been since her mother died. The house feels like a real home again. And I feel like I'm living again instead of just getting through each day. I feel like I found where I belong," Maria said softly. "I've cared for other families, but I've never felt like I was truly part of one until now." Sam took Maria's hand, intertwining their fingers. Maria, I need to ask you something. Okay.
Sam's heart began to race, but he knew it was time to voice the thoughts that had been occupying his mind for weeks.
How would you feel about making this official? About becoming a permanent part of our family?
Maria turned to look at him directly.
Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking if you'd be open to the idea. If you think it's something you'd want.
Maria was quiet for a moment, and Sam felt his anxiety rising.
Had he misread their relationship? Had he moved too quickly? Sam, Maria said finally, I love you. I love Emma. I love this life we've built together.
But I need to know that you're sure about this. That you're not just grateful for the stability I've brought to your family.
I'm sure, Sam said without hesitation. What I feel for you isn't gratitude, Maria. It's love. The kind of love I thought I'd never find again. And, Emma? How do you think she'd really feel about us getting married? Why don't we ask her? Sam suggested.
They found Emma in the barn, sitting in Buttercup's stall, gently brushing her new horse and talking to her in soft, loving tones. The scene was so peaceful and perfect that Sam felt his heart overflow with love for his daughter and gratitude for the life they had built.
Emma, Sam said gently, Maria and I want to talk to you about something important.
Emma looked up, her face immediately serious.
Is something wrong?
No, sweetheart, Maria said, settling beside Emma in the stall. Something might be very right, but we want to make sure you're okay with it.
I've asked Maria to marry me, Sam said directly.
And she said yes, but only if you're comfortable with it.
Emma's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, thought, and then pure joy. Really? You're going to get married?
If you're okay with it, Maria confirmed. You're the most important person in both of our lives, Emma.
We wouldn't do anything that would make you unhappy.
Emma threw her arms around Maria first, then Sam, pulling them both into a three-way hug that somehow managed to include Buttercup as well. I want you to get married, Emma said firmly.
I want us to be a real family forever.
We already are a real family, Sam said, holding both of his girls close.
Getting married just makes it official. When? Emma asked excitedly. Can we have a big wedding? Can Buttercup be in it? Sam and Maria laughed at Emma's enthusiasm.
We haven't planned any of the details yet, Maria said.
But I think a small ceremony here on the ranch would be perfect. With horses? Emma insisted. With horses, Maria agreed, smiling at Sam over Emma's head.
As they sat together in the barn, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of horses settling in for the night, Sam marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, he had been a broken man desperately trying to hold his family together. Now he was surrounded by love and looking forward to a future filled with possibility. Emma fell asleep that night in her own bed, but not before making Sam and Maria promise to wake her up if they decided on any wedding details during the night. As Sam tucked her in, she whispered, "Daddy, I think this is the best day of my whole life."
Mine too, sweetheart, Sam whispered back. Mine too.
Later that evening, Sam and Maria walked hand in hand through the moonlit pasture where the ranch horses grazed peacefully. The spring air was soft and warm, filled with the promise of summer and new beginnings.
Are you sure about this? Maria asked one more time. About all of it?
I've never been more sure of anything, Sam replied, stopping to take her in his arms. You saved us, Maria. You saved Emma and you saved me, and you showed us that it's possible to love again without betraying the love we've lost.
You saved me too, Maria said softly.
You gave me a family to love and a place to belong. As they kissed under the Montana stars, Sam felt the last pieces of his heart heal completely. The future stretched out before them full of possibility, Emma growing up confident and loved, the ranch prospering under their joint care, and their love deepening with each passing season. They were married 6 weeks later in a simple ceremony on the ranch, surrounded by friends and neighbors who had watched their love story unfold.
Emma served as maid of honor, wearing a dress the same color as Buttercup's chestnut coat, and insisted on leading Buttercup down the aisle as part of the processional.
As Sam and Maria exchanged vows under the same cottonwood trees where he had once sat alone in his grief, he realized that sometimes the most profound changes come not from dramatic gestures, but from the quiet, daily choice to open your heart to love again. The ranch that had once felt empty and hollow now rang with laughter and conversation. The house that had been merely a shelter became a true home. And the family that had been broken by loss was made whole again by the gentle, steady love of a woman who understood that healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from honoring it while building something beautiful in the present. Emma kept her promise to care for Buttercup with dedication and love, and, as the years passed, girl and horse became inseparable companions. Maria's garden flourished, providing fresh vegetables for their table and flowers for their home. Sam's ranch prospered under the care of a man who had learned to balance work with the joy of family life. And, on quiet evenings, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset paint the Montana mountains in shades of gold and purple, Sam often reflected on the truth his daughter had discovered, that sometimes the best things in life come not from searching for them, but from having the courage to recognize them when they appear, often disguised as something much simpler than what they truly are. Maria had come to them as a housekeeper, but she had become the heart of their home and the love of Sam's life. In caring for their daily needs, she had given them back their capacity for joy. In loving Emma as her own, she had shown them both that families can grow in beautiful and unexpected ways. The quiet rancher had found his voice again through love, and the woman who had spent years caring for other people's families had finally found one to call her own. Together, they had created something that honored the past while embracing the future, proving that with patience, trust, and open hearts, even the most broken lives can be made whole again.